Where we are now with the Rock, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes stuff is in a very different place than we were 1 week ago. And you've heard from so many different people and shows and people on social media. Everybody's coming up with their different theories and their different scenarios about how things are going to play out and where it's going to go. One person that I've noticed has gone back and forth in very different places is Dave Meltzer. And it's just funny to me because Meltzer was the one really who said even a week ago, Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania this year is 100% happening. It's 100% locked in. Now, of course, it looks like we're not getting Rock and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania this year. I mean, we're definitely not. Unless they have Roman work both nights, it's not going to happen. And then he started going into the whole tag team thing, which a lot of people thought would be the case coming out of the Vegas event on Thursday. And now, he's kind of changing his mind on that. And at first it was like, well, this is all part of The Rock's plan. This is all planned this way from the word go. And then I noticed in the latest issue of The Observer, Dave himself is now saying they know it turned into a mess. And it won't be a mess so long as it doesn't hurt them business-wise. But now the whole thing it's been turned into a mess. And I'm like, oh, Dave, I've lost track of how many different versions that he himself has floated already about what's been going on here. But that's just the case right now with pretty much everybody. People are coming up with all kinds of explanations and what they think is a work or wasn't a work and where it's going to go, where it's not going to go. The one thing that they have succeeded in doing, whether they intended to or not, is to get people talking about this and get their mind focused on this instead of other things. And that's exactly what's been going on over the past week. And they had an event in Las Vegas on Thursday, the site of the Super Bowl tonight. As a little side note here, the Vital Vegas account on Twitter. Vital Vegas is a blog. It's part of the website casino.org. It's considered, the ultimate source of Las Vegas news. They are reporting that WrestleMania is returning to Las Vegas for the first time since 1993, when Bret Hart told Hulk Hogan to go for it. And then on his way out a few months later, Hogan said, fuck no, I'm not putting that guy over. Now, they did not specify if it was next year's WrestleMania, only that the announcement is anticipated soon. I was surprised we didn't get the announcement on Thursday. I thought that was one of the reasons they were running Vegas for this event in the first place, other than the fact that that's where the Super Bowl is. I was surprised they didn't say anything about it, but they're going to have to make the announcement soon, right? I mean, they're going to have to tell people soon where WrestleMania is going to be next year. Minneapolis was on the short list for 41, but I think Vegas for 41 or 42 seems pretty likely right now. Now, they worked this event on Thursday like a UFC weigh-in, but without the actual weighing in. This was not the WrestleMania Rage Party from '99 with Isaac Hayes singing Chocolate Salty Balls, but it was treated like a real sporting event. They showed everybody arriving earlier in the day with the little timestamps, which they've been doing on TV now since Kevin Dunn left. Apparently, there were only 2,000 or 3,000 fans in the arena, in a building that fits a lot more than that. I mean, they ran the T-Mobile Arena. It surprised me, though, because I made the comment when I went live on Thursday night after it was over. I said, man, it looked like they packed in the place pretty good. And apparently there were only 2,000 people there. But it looked pretty full to me, the way they shot it, and the people who were there were pretty loud. Now, we have to take this back to last Friday. On SmackDown, when Cody Rhodes confronted Roman Reigns, the now infamous segment where he came out and he said, Roman, that title that you have, that's the one that I want. That's the one that I need. I can't finish my story without beating you for that championship. And I will come after you. And I will come after that title, but not at WrestleMania. And at that point, I knew exactly where this was going. And then The Rock came out and Cody took a bow and he left the ring. And without announcing anything and making anything official, they left you with the impression that Rock and Roman Reigns was the direction for WrestleMania this year. And the fans in Birmingham in the building that night went nuts for it because of course they would, right? The Rock shows up as a surprise. People are going to go nuts. And people went nuts online too, but not in the way I think that they intended them to. And Rock ended up leaning into it. On Pat McAfee's show, he went on there earlier in the day on Thursday and he talked about the Cody crybabies. He made the distinction between the crybabies and all the other Cody fans. So it wasn't just like he was healing on all the Cody Rhodes fans. So the reaction It clearly stung him a little bit. But to his credit, he has leaned into it. They all have leaned into it. We are getting heel Rock now, which is very cool. I'm down for heel Rock. I just didn't think he would actually do it. But his hand was forced. And look, I'm still in the camp of when they made the decision to have Cody say, I want you, Roman Reigns, just not at WrestleMania. And The Rock stepped in to steal his spot. If the reaction had been overwhelmingly positive, not just in the building that night, but just in general, if it had been overwhelmingly positive, that this is exactly the way it was all meant to go down, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. If the reaction had been overwhelmingly positive, I think it would have been Rock and Roman Part 1. And the long game that Rock's been talking about would have been multiple matches between them. They would be playing out this Tribal Chief bloodline saga probably for the next year, which I think they're going to be doing anyway. But it would have been multiple matches between them. So 40 and 41, or 40, and then maybe SummerSlam and a finale at 41 next year. And that would have been the long game. But the reaction was not overwhelmingly positive, just the opposite. And now here we are with Rock as a heel together with Roman Reigns. Cody changed his mind, and now he is getting the shot after all. And they are teasing a power struggle between The Rock and Triple H. It's definitely a lot more interesting to me than just a straight-up Rock and Roman Reigns match would have been. But they saw the reaction, and they knew that if they put that match out there this year, if they went through with Rock against Roman at the Big 4-0, the fans would have hijacked it. They did not want to ruin that match. That is still a big match for them to do at some point. Goldberg and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 20 should have been this great attraction, had people not heard that both of them were leaving. That ruined what should have been something special. They absolutely savaged those two. You know, you've got to read the room. Timing is everything. And especially after what went down on Thursday, there's no way they could have done Rock against Roman on this year's show. So what happened in Las Vegas? Seth comes out. Seth Rollins is out there with his World Heavyweight consolation belt. And he wants Cody Rhodes to come out because Cody is the man who has to make a decision here. Cody had been teasing that he's made his decision, like he's LeBron James. And he calls out Cody. Roman Reigns comes out instead. And he says it's his decision now. He chooses The Rock. Out comes The Rock. They booed this man. He tells us he's got something very cool to show us. He thinks we're going to like it a lot. And then he puts up a picture of his family tree. What is this, 23andMe? By the way, their family tree is out of control. I did spy Jacob Fatu's name on there at the bottom. He is a free agent right now. I'm just saying. And so with the decision to go back to Cody, they had Rock out there to make it very clear that there's only one royal family in wrestling, which is a play off the beginning of Cody's theme song. Rock and Roman embrace. It looks like we've got our match for WrestleMania. Cody comes out and says this is bullshit. He says he's made his choice. Sounded like he made his choice to me the week before, but now he's changed his mind. Now he's really made his choice. And he says that he chooses Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Poor Seth Rollins is standing out there off to the side, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, watching his WrestleMania main event go up in flames. Roman, he says, if your grandfather was here, and then Rock, if the High Chief was here, they would be ashamed of you. And then it was Rock, and not Roman, the real head of the table, who stepped up to Cody and smacked the taste out of his mouth. And we got a pull apart. It was a very smart way to get people to tune into SmackDown the next night to see what the fallout would be, which was Triple H affirming that it will be Cody Rhodes challenging Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Championship at WrestleMania. And he also took some shots. He fired some shots at The Rock, who was not there. Roman Reigns was not there. Cody was not there. Not on TV anyway. But he took some shots at The Rock, who backstage after the event on Thursday, as Triple H was being interviewed by Jackie Redmond, here comes Roman and Heyman and Rock, and this is right after that big pull apart. And they're walking right by Triple H, and Rock is kind of muttering under his breath and cussing, and Triple H looks over at him, and Rock comes over, and Rock tells him, he says, you need to fix this. If you don't fix this, he and Roman will. So flexing his muscle as the new board member. And Triple H on SmackDown said some people don't know their role. Like they try to assert their authority when they really don't have any. And he says he really doesn't care where they sit. He said the answers come from one place and one place only, and right now you're looking at them. And there may be some people in the back who are going to be disappointed by this decision, but here's the thing, it doesn't matter if you don't like that decision. Now, Rock and Roman are being advertised for SmackDown this Friday, and we're probably going to get that face-to-face between Rock and Triple H, with a power struggle that seems to be brewing between the two of them. And by the way, if ever there was a real power struggle, Triple H is going to be the odd man out. He's going to be on the losing end of it, because ain't no way that Ari Emanuel is siding with Paul Levesque over Dwayne Johnson if it ever came to that. Rock brought Brian Gewirtz back with him to be his writer. You know, he could easily slide right into that spot if they ever needed him to. Half the roster feels like are members of Rock's family. His daughter is the general manager of NXT. Triple H has no chance if Rock really did want to take over one day. It really hit me, though, watching the end of that event on Thursday, how Roman Reigns instantly felt like little brother to The Rock out there. Roman mocked Seth Rollins for being little brother, but Roman Reigns got little brothered on Thursday, which he is. I mean, Rock is an actual high chief. Roman is not. Rock's also a much bigger star than Roman Reigns is, but Roman's been walking around for 3 years now as the badass alpha male of the place, and in one night he felt like number 2 for the first time. So everything has been turned upside down. What looked to be a straight line to WrestleMania coming out of the Royal Rumble has now become a winding road. And I'm all for twists and turns in this story, but there's no way that this is the story, exactly the story they envisioned when they started this thing. And that's not me being afraid to admit that I got worked. Look, if I was worked, then I'll own it. I'll wear it as a fucking badge. Because wrestling is at its best when they get you like that, right? And they make you believe. The word mark, it's a pejorative term, and that's really how it's always been used. It was used by the carnies and the con men as an insult, right? To describe people who would buy into their schemes, and so, so-and-so is an easy mark. Wrestlers today, they use it as an insult, even though they're the biggest marks of all. Fans use it as an insult on one another. But the reality is, if you've ever spent a dime on pro wrestling in your life, if you bought a pay-per-view, if you bought a t-shirt, if you bought an action figure, a video game, I hate to break it to you, but you too are a mark. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But no, I don't think that this was the plan from the jump. I think Rock miscalculated. Now they've course corrected, and the only thing that matters in this whole thing, whatever you believe, it honestly doesn't even matter anymore. The only thing that matters is that the main event of WrestleMania is Cody Rhodes against Roman Reigns. That is what the match should have been all along, from the moment that Cody got screwed on last year's show. And it became clear as the months went on that the fans were sticking with this guy. They were not giving up on him. They were all in on Cody Rhodes, because they could have turned on him. Just like the AEW fans turned on him. But there was a big difference there because in AEW, he got very full of himself. All right, I've talked about his entourage expanding and growing. Every week we would see him on TV. There was somebody new out there with him. And they've taken great pains not to do that in WWE. I mean, Cody, sometimes he goes out there and he sounds like a politician and he sounds a little stilted, but he's been the man of the people and they have stuck with him. I mean, he has become the top babyface in this company. And so once that became clear, it was like, all right, we got to be all in on this guy here. He can't afford another loss back-to-back years. Can't do that. Now, the other thing is, last Friday we had Cody seemingly willingly give up his main event spot. Not his title shot, but give up his main event spot at WrestleMania and the match that he said he wanted with Roman Reigns. Now, why would he do this? Because we still have not gotten any explanation from him as to the why. And there's a very simple way they could explain this. Cody could come out and say that he realized that The Rock, who he says he took counsel from, did not actually have his best interest in mind. He was being selfish. He was making it all about himself, all about his own family. giving him and his family the shaft. Cody got played. Now we need to wait and see how he explains this tomorrow night, because now he needs to share with the world what The Rock whispered in his ear. Not only did he willingly surrender his main event to Dwayne, but then he got bitch slapped by him on Thursday. So now the gloves have to come off. He needs to come clean on Raw and explain why he stepped aside and looked like such a dweeb. And he needs to do that on Raw tomorrow night. Now Seth Rollins is the odd man out here because Cody has made his choice. His choice was not Seth. And on Friday, they announced that Seth Rollins is going to defend the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania against the winner of an Elimination Chamber match. And they started holding qualifying matches. Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre are already in. Orton beat Sami Zayn, Drew beat AJ Styles. Tomorrow night, Bobby Lashley battles Bronson Reed, and LA Knight takes on Ivar. Lashley, I think, is getting taken out by the Final Testament, and we're going to get that six-man tag, probably at Elimination Chamber. Reed is the big Aussie, right? They're going to want to put him in the Chamber match in Perth. They're not going to keep him off that show. So I think he'll end up in the Chamber. The other matches are a little bit harder to predict because LA Knight cost AJ Styles his match on Friday. Those two were still beefing with each other. So then why wouldn't AJ do the same to LA Knight tomorrow and cost him his match with Ivar? He should. And I think he will. And then we get Styles against Knight at the Chamber. Ivar ends up in the Elimination Chamber. Logan Paul is being forced to wrestle The Miz this Friday to qualify. It's not ideal to beat the champion, but he's losing either way. Either he's losing to The Miz on Friday, or he's going to lose inside the Chamber. So it doesn't matter. Kevin Owens is wrestling Dominic Mysterio on Friday as well, in a qualifying match. I still feel like we're getting a rematch for the US title on that pay-per-view, with Owens and Logan Paul, which would mean that they would both fail to qualify. But that also means then that The Miz and Dominic would end up in the Chamber. And so if that happened, the Elimination Chamber for a shot at the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania would be made up of Drew McIntyre, which is great, Randy Orton, which is fine, Bronson Reed, Ivar, The Miz, and Dominic. That's a pretty underwhelming lineup. Dominic was originally earmarked for a match with Brock Lesnar on that show. So I feel like they do want him on there. At the end of the day, whoever advances and doesn't, it doesn't matter because Drew McIntyre should be the one wrestling Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. This guy is absolutely on fire right now. And maybe they can still find a way, even though he lost, maybe they could still find a way to work Sami Zayn into the mix and make it a triple threat. But Rollins and McIntyre is the play here. You know, once CM Punk went down, McIntyre became the obvious choice. Now, if you watch that event in Vegas on Thursday, it looked like they were setting up for a tag team match. You had Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins out there on stage being pulled away from Rock and Roman Reigns. Rock and Roman against Cody and Seth. But when would they do it? Seth is still hurt. So unless he's made a miraculous recovery, he's not going to be wrestling at the Elimination Chamber, which is where it would have made sense to do that match. Now, you're looking at WrestleMania Night 1 maybe as a potential place for it, but then you're expecting everybody to pull double duty back-to-back nights because Seth still has to defend the world title and Roman has to defend his title against Cody. Do they really want to risk any of them getting hurt on Night 1 and not being able to work Night 2? Tomorrow night is going to tell the tale, because if we hear from Cody Rhodes about this whole situation but not from Seth, then there's no tag team match. This Friday, we have Rock and Roman coming to SmackDown. I don't see this power struggle stuff lasting beyond WrestleMania, because this is still The Rock that we're talking about here. The guy, he still has movies to make. It's not like he's taken a year off, right? His time is going to be limited no matter what. But Rock and Triple H are going to come face to face. And there are people who are clamoring for it and thinking that it's going to be Rock against Triple H at WrestleMania. Because here's the thing, Rock went on Pat McAfee's show and he talked about how he's in training camp right now. But again, this is all before Cody made his choice and it went from Rock and Roman to Cody and Roman. So this all could have just been part of what they wanted people to think. But he was talking about, I got a training camp going. I have a ring at both my homes. I got one in Hawaii and one here and one there. And he's trying to get back into ring shape. He could be trying to get into ring shape to be a referee, right? It doesn't necessarily mean he's got to have a match. But if he is going to have a match at WrestleMania this year, just not against Roman Reigns, it ain't going to be against Triple H. So let's just put that to bed, okay? People are out there trying to kill Triple H, booking all of these different scenarios, forgetting the fact that it was only a few years ago that Triple H almost died. He almost died. He had a defibrillator implanted in his chest. I'm not even sure if he wanted to that he could be medically cleared to do an actual full-length match. So Rock against Triple H is not going to happen. But could there be a situation where Triple H agrees, okay, all right, you want to mix it up, but I'll tell you what, it's not going to be me that you're getting into the ring with at WrestleMania. Triple H finds himself a proxy. And then it's someone else representing him in WWE against The Rock on night one of WrestleMania. So you do end up getting a Rock match on that show. The only question then is, who would it be? Who would Triple H choose? And the most obvious name to me would be Randy Orton. Because Randy Orton is somebody right now who does not have an obvious match at WrestleMania. And he should be in a high-profile match on that show. He also has history with Triple H. Rock and Randy is interesting because we've never seen that match before. It was 20 years ago at WrestleMania. They were in the ring together, but it was a handicap match. It was not a singles match. So we never got Rock against Randy Orton. You could have Randy out there representing Triple H and do him and Rock one-on-one. John Cena is another name that keeps being floated for WrestleMania. I don't know that John Cena is going to have a match at WrestleMania. And if he did, I still think that him against Solo Sikoa would probably be what they would go with because Solo beat him last time and beat him pretty badly. And Cena still hasn't won a singles match in 5 or 6 years, right? He's got that kind of monkey he's got to get off his back, so to speak. So maybe we get that. I honestly don't even have an interest in seeing that match again. But if Cena was going to work WrestleMania, could he be the proxy? And could we get a Rock-Cena match? I've already seen it twice. I don't really have any desire to see Rock-Cena again. Especially now, all these years later, when they're not going to be nearly as good as they were even then. Right? And I didn't even like their second match. But John Cena is kind of Mr. WWE. They call him the greatest of all time every time he shows up. It would be a huge match. I'm not saying it wouldn't be. But then there's another name. And I'm going to throw this out there, and it's funny because people were asking me about this person on one of the streams. Maybe it was Friday night, Thursday night. Throwing his name out there as a possibility to be involved in all this or to actually wrestle. And I kind of dismissed it because I don't think it's necessary, and I just don't think it's going to happen. I think this is all, we're getting into fantasy booking territory here. But I'm just saying, if you were going to have a proxy in there to wrestle The Rock at WrestleMania, could it be Stone Cold Steve Austin? To get one last Rock and Austin match, Rock and Austin 4 at WrestleMania. The last time these two wrestled in Philadelphia also happened to be at WrestleMania. It was WrestleMania 15. Wouldn't that be something? If at WrestleMania 40, right, we got Cody and Roman. That's the right match to do for the title. But you want to get Rock on the show doing something on night one. Rock and Stone Cold. We saw Stone Cold come back 2 years ago to wrestle Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. Imagine the glass shatters. Out comes Austin. We get Austin and Rock facing off. Again, we're getting into fantasy land here. And the other reason that this is probably a bad idea is Austin went in there and had a much better match than I was expecting him to have after 19 years off with Kevin Owens. But he was in there with Kevin Owens. And Kevin Owens is great. And Kevin Owens went in there and sold for him and bounced around and bumped for him. And so he was a great kind of base for him to have out there in that match. Rock and Austin is a very different beast because in Rock and Austin now you have two guys. Austin's got to be closing in on 60. Rock's not that far behind him. And both these guys have not wrestled full time in years and years and years. Austin had a match 2 years ago. It was one and done. Rock hasn't wrestled a real match for all intents and purposes in over a decade. And it's a dangerous thing. If you're going to put them in there against each other in a one-on-one situation, and they get blown up, it's like, well, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. But I would be lying, look, if I said that if I saw Rock and Austin face-to-face again, that it wouldn't get me excited. And it would be the nostalgia kicking in. But Austin and Rock, you can never go wrong with those two if you wanted to do something. And so I just put that out there as a possibility. And look, if this is a situation where they are really sort of adjusting on the fly, there's no way you're going to get Stone Cold on 2 months' notice. Oh, hey, Steve, what do you think about having a match at WrestleMania? Oh, sure, yeah, let me get in shape. You got to give this guy a heads up. You've got to negotiate. You got to give this guy time. I'll tell you what, though, if he gets involved and we actually did get that, then this entire thing is a work. Because there's no way that you would be able to do that match on short notice and have him ready for it. But I just put that out there. If they wanted to have, Rock's the heel now. Babyface Austin, heel Rock. I mean, that's what got a lot of people into wrestling during the Attitude Era. And they're both still in pretty good shape. I'm just saying. But let's get beyond fantasy land here and talk about what could be happening on night 2 when Roman and Cody go toe-to-toe. How is Rock going to be involved in that? Because whether Rock wrestles on night 1 or not, we know Rock is going to have some kind of involvement in that main event on night 2. Is he going to use his newfound power as a TKO board member to make himself the guest referee for the main event? Are we looking, because I don't think we're looking at a triple threat. The match is made. There's no need for this to be a triple threat. The one thing that was very clear to me after the event in Las Vegas is Rock and Roman has got to be a longer play. There's no heat to see Rock against Roman right now. They're on the same side. That's not what people want to see now after what we saw on Thursday. A year from now, maybe, but not this year. So putting Rock in the match or making it a triple threat to me doesn't even make any sense now. But could we be looking at him as a referee? Very possible. Are we looking at Roman losing? Well, yes, we are. But are we looking at Roman losing? Now he has shamed his family. And that's the catalyst for the fallout. Roman is stripped of his tribal chief title, and the build to Rock against Roman Reigns can begin. With Roman ending up as the babyface in all this. Right? It could even be Rock himself, who stops Solo Sikoa from getting involved when Roman summons him. Now it's a fair fight, and that leads to Roman Reigns losing. Are we looking at a WrestleMania 14 scenario here with Mike Tyson and DX where we get to the same point, but it was a ruse all along with Rock thinking that Roman already was shaming the family by cheating in all of his matches and talking about how I'm the head of the table, even though Rock thinks that he's the head of the table. So he played along. He made Roman think they're on the same side when in reality he's there to make it a fair fight and Cody Rhodes wins the championship. I think the end goal in this should be to make Roman Reigns one of the biggest baby faces, if not the biggest babyface, in the company. Rehashing the Tyson angle is not the way you do that. I think it's the other way. Not with Rock fighting off the bloodline, but commanding them to stand down, right when Roman needs them the most. And since he's the high chief, right, his authority trumps Roman. So Solo would have to be subservient to him, not to Roman Reigns. Because I've always said, once Roman loses Solo, that's the beginning of the end for him. But even better, you do that. Then the following Friday on SmackDown, the entire bloodline is in the ring. Roman confronts The Rock. Things get heated. At least from Roman's end, things get very heated. And a debuting Jacob Fatu shows up. And he beats the hell out of Roman Reigns. And they all put the boots to him. Fatu, Solo, Jimmy. Rock is just standing there looking on. So you effectively reset the bloodline. Roman can go away for a few months, which he usually does anyway, so no big deal there. And Jacob Fatu basically takes the place of Roman until he comes back. Roman has to go through him first and maybe all of his cousins until they eventually get to Rock and Roman, with Roman as the babyface heading into WrestleMania 41. You want to play the long game, that's one way to do that. But at the end of the day, WrestleMania 10 ended with the babyface standing tall. WrestleMania 20 ended with the babyface standing tall. WrestleMania 30 ended with the babyface standing tall. And WrestleMania 40 will end with the babyface standing tall. And Cody will finish his story. It's the Rocky Balboa comeback story in Philadelphia. It writes itself. So I'm just happy that we're back on track here and we're headed for the correct match and the correct outcome. We'll see where things go this week. This week will tell the tale as far as will there be a tag match And is Seth Rollins going to be involved in this in some way? We're going to get a lot of answers, I think, on Raw tomorrow night. But the most important thing, I think, is for Cody to cut that promo and explain why he made the decision that he did and what Rock whispered in his ear in that SmackDown segment last week. I think that has to happen on Raw tomorrow night.